and with lesser returns. So there is, as I said, I can't say that we are in a Herculean crisis because that would be setting all kinds of alarm bells ringing, but we're definitely in a situation which needs to be addressed.
Right. Now, I'll take you up on the fact of uh, budgets, right? And one of the things that really uh, a lot of us find baffling is that, you know, our movies are say like 100 crore, 200 crores is the kind of number we talk about. Whereas Hollywood would go into what the equivalent would be $1 billion club, which we're talking about, say, 6,000 crore. That's the kind of numbers we're dealing with compared to Hollywood and the Bombay film industry. But when you look at a Forbes list, for instance, and you'll find three movie stars from Bombay in it in the top 10. So, do you think at some level there is some problem there in terms of how much of that booty goes to one person rather than the film?
I don't think the revenues that most movie stars accrue are all to do with just the cinema they make. It's the peripheral avenues of that also come from the products they endorse, to the shows they do, to the entrepreneurship that they have. Be it Shah Rukh Khan, who is also an entrepreneur. You know, he owns a cricket team. He's always been exceptionally business savvy. So you know, be it exceptionally, they're all businessmen as well. So they leverage their positions as movie stars and have taken it to various levels, which is intelligent and very forward, progressive moving of them. It's not always, very few actors really have just made a certain amount of wealth as a result of the movies they've done. There are always other avenues of income. So when they're on the Forbes list, it's not just the wealth they have amassed within the movie structure. It's out of it as well. Because what happens is the stardom is much larger than the money in your bank. It's like, you know, naam bada darshan chota. It's literally that's a people think that we all have enough wealth to put into Swiss banks. It's not true at all. It's a myth. You could be a brand in this country, but not necessarily match the bandwidth of that brand economically at all. You may actually have nothing compared to people who are lesser known.
Sure.
Because the movies have a tendency of making you seem larger than life. The very intelligent men and women in the business have actually invested well, have actually gone beyond the periphery of their fraternity and gone beyond it. And I think that's why they come into those lists, because the wealth is just not cinema, it's brand plus what they do with it.
Right, right. But given that cinema will always be, at least mainstream cinema will always be star driven, do you think that at some level the film industry in itself gets beholden by 4 or 5 people, and when their movies come out, it's a hit? Otherwise, you just don't know.
It's actually, if you ask me, the middle order cinema is what's going to suffer. It's the what you know as indie cinema in the West. It's the tiny, powerful film, the Piku, the Pink, the Nirja, the Kapoor and Sons, the Urta Punjab, the cost to profit ratios, which are actually enormous. Those will be the gems of the year. And then there'll be the big event film, the Bajrangi Bhaijaan, the Sultan, the Rais, the Fan, the Dangal, the bigger movies. It's the middle order that you need to really monitor. You know, really, you have to kind of make sure that those don't go over the top in terms of budget. Because then everybody has to come on board. Actors have to know if they love a script, you can't go crazy charging that kind of money. And then everything else then, you know, has to peter down along with it. Because the cost of marketing a film at the minimum level is 6 crores. The maximum can go up to 20. But even if yours is a tiny endeavor, you have to spend an X amount of money. Or then you be very creative about you. Like when we were presenting and marketing Lunchbox, it was a challenge because we had little money, but we had to make whatever noise we could. So you become clever. Those are few and far between, and a lot of academia and a lot of thought has to go into marketing a tiny film. Not every film, firstly, is worthy of a larger audience within that context. Like when I saw Lunchbox at Cannes, I told the UTV guys, I said, this film will make money, but you have to be clever about it. So we came up with, say, a line like, how do you fall in love with someone you never met? You build intrigue. You know, you have to kind of do that. So there is a structure, but not every film warrants that. After that, there were a series of films that came to our table about, let's do this. It's a tiny film, just like Lunchbox. No, there's one Lunchbox. It's not every film that will do the same. There were many other endeavors and Me Too's of that zone, but not all of them struck a chord with an audience. So as I said, going back to your question, it's the smaller film and the smaller film with high content and the larger film with big movie star, or then maybe big CG appeal, etc. That will make a big mark. The middle order has to be monitored, or else it will result in the closure of many films, many studios, and many careers.
But I mean, you know this better than anybody else, of course, in this auditorium. is that at the end of the day, the audience really goes looking at who's the face on the
That's
poster,
day
right?
one. The whole thing has changed, Mayank, which I think I call it the Saturday phenomenon. Like the good films are the Saturday films, the ones that really get spoken about on Friday. And one thing about our country you have to know, word of mouth travels faster than anything else. Your film is good in the morning, by the afternoon you'll see the spike, by the night you'll see packed halls, the Saturday will be humongous. I've seen that in all films that have been appreciated. So it's no longer, yes, for the certain films, the day one is going to be driven by perhaps those 3 or 5 large movie stars. But let me tell you, your film is good, you see the spike through the day. Like it's what happened recently with the success of Pink.
Right.
It started at a certain number, it ended at a much higher number, and the next day the growth was phenomenal, and Sunday was like, it was cemented that it was a big success. So as I said, it's now today become a Saturday. It's all become all about the Saturday. And your Saturday holds strongly, you know you're home. So it's no longer, I feel don't go crazy with the film, marketing it if you don't feel it has the right chops to get that number on day one, because no matter what you do, you won't get the number. If your film is really strong, show it internally, do your research screenings, show it to 200 people that